episode 177. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How's it going, Dave? We recorded Wednesday for the big PlayStation thing. Glad we did, because we needed something big PlayStation-wise. It's been kind of quiet.
Well, and there was nothing else really happened this week at all. So we would have recorded on Tuesday in anticipation of doing our own show for PlayStation. We wouldn't have had a very long regular show.
Which is something, like, they've been really good at, like, preventing leaks, you know? Like, usually before a big event or E3, everything gets leaked out pretty much. But it seems like so far everything's okay. But for the most part, the biggest thing this week was the PlayStation thing, so we had to wait for it. Otherwise, we'd be talking about Embracer Group right now and their financial troubles, because that was pretty much all the news that came out this week that wasn't related to the PlayStation Showcase.
Yeah. All right, so we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that goes live every Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Time on podcast services. If you're able to leave us a review, share the show, tell somebody about it, that's great, especially as we talk about some of the Sony stuff. If you have a friend that maybe is a big fan of any of the news that we talk about, just send them a link to the show. Most of the podcast services have that little share app, so just copy the link, send it to them in a text message, Facebook message, Twitter message, whatever, however you guys, I don't even know, WhatsApp message, if that's still a thing. Just anything to get some additional people listening to the show is always helpful. If you are new, welcome. Thank you for giving us a shot. If you're an every week listener as well, thank you for your consistency as well. Consider subscribing if you haven't subscribed. Download, leave a review, all that fun stuff. And you can check out all the other links in the show notes. And I'm going to keep it short today, so we're going to get right into it.
Yeah, we're just going to go through the whole PlayStation Showcase announcement by announcement, trailer by trailer. Dave was able to watch it live. I was able to watch it live as well, though I was watching on a phone, so I wonder if that dampened a little bit of my reactions to certain things. But I think there was a little bit something for all of us. Dave got some Bungie stuff to sink his teeth into a little bit, and I got some Spider-Man stuff, but we'll just go through everything at first. If this dumb website will load for me. As soon as this loads, we'll be able to go. But yeah, so the first thing that the showcase started off with was the new game from Haven. We got a CGI trailer that showed that it is basically a heist game. It looks like it is a PvE heist game. And no release date on that, just a CGI trailer, getting to see what Haven is doing. Dave, I have to ask what you thought of the trailer first, and then I'll ask a follow-up question.
I got a lot of Watch Dogs meets Overwatch vibe from it.
Yeah, I got Watch Dogs meets Payday the Heist, if you remember that game.
Mm-hmm. And then my immediate concern... or question, concern's the wrong word. My immediate question when I saw it, I was like, oh, cool, we're starting with Haven. And my wife was watching it with me, and she's like, well, what's the big deal? And I was like, well, this is supposed to be a video game that's not a video game.
Or not a video game, something innovative and different.
Yeah. And what I saw was a video game. Yeah. Not innovative, not different.
And that's what I was going to ask you. For a studio that talked about they're doing something new, something creative, they almost were throwing out the play, create, share vibes. That we're just maybe Media Molecule's helping them out on something. I did not get any of that from this. I just got most likely third-person shooter heist game, which is cool because I don't think any game has really done heists well outside of Payday. I know Grand Theft Auto dipped in that a little bit, but there hasn't been anything innovative in that specific genre in a while, so hopefully this is it. But as a first showing, I was a little underwhelmed for what I saw because of the hype the studio put behind it,
especially without any speaking. So in terms of whether it's Jim Ryan or it's what's her name, Jade Raymond, coming on and having a brief presentation about, this is my goal with Haven Studios. This is what we're building, and let me show you what we're working on. Even little hints of, there wasn't even anything that talked about and more, or we believe this is a live service game, based on what they've said and Sony's track record and the studio acquisitions. And I don't know what I saw. Like, I legitimately don't know what I saw. There's a case for it to be third person, 100%. But would you be super surprised, Michael, if this turns into first person? And they were just showing some CGI, like, cinematic trailers?
No, not at all. I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. It looks like it is PvP, but or at least that's what the website's saying. So I wouldn't be surprised if this turns into a first-person thing, which, again, PlayStation desperately needs, like, a first-person shooter in their stable. Though I would expect that to come from Bungie. But there's nothing wrong with multiple studios putting first-person shooters out under PlayStation. But yeah, I don't know enough about it. But I will say there has to be something there because PlayStation felt confident enough to have it open the show. Because there's two spots that are very important during these, and it's the opener and a closer, and they felt like this is a good opener because it should get people talking. Especially, I'll say, as we go through this list, I feel like there was a lot of ups and downs throughout this like hour presentation, and of the first 10 games that were shown, the Haven game was the most interesting because I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately we got what I have been asking for a couple of months from these Sony studio acquisitions and stuff like that and I guess now that I got what I asked for, I just now want more because I was saying, give us a title, give us a teaser, and that's what we got. And I'm still, I guess, disappointed is a bad word or the wrong word. I'm not interested. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like I'm intrigued, which I think is what you would want from a teaser trailer.
You're right. And just because I'm not interested doesn't mean that I can't become interested. Yeah. But that did nothing but make me go, that's not what your mission statement was.
It's not what the mission statement is, but there is promise in like a heist.
Haven's mission statement.
Yeah, Haven's
or at least the
statement.
perception of what Haven would be doing.
But that also could be studio trying to get acquired, pitching themselves like we got this crazy ideas, and then it's just like, what about that heist game that is easy to market? Because there is something there in terms of like it has like some fantastical elements to it, like some like borderline fantasy elements,
like a Rainbow Six Vegas. What was that? New Vegas. Rainbow Six New Vegas.
No, just Vegas. New Vegas is following, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. Rainbow Six Vegas, like 4v4 versus objective.
Yeah.
With a lot of abilities and things like that. Like that could be cool. But I mean, do you see this, I guess right off the bat, do you see this being a free-to-play function?
I don't know, but it definitely will be in their live service demographic. So it's nice to at least start seeing the live service games come to fruition because there might have been a couple more sprinkled in here, which is good to tell. And we'll talk about the games that just weren't here because there was a few. But there's at least enough here that I'm intrigued by it, but there wasn't quite enough that I'm going to remember this game's name in like 2 or 3 weeks. If that makes sense. Of like, I'm intrigued, and I'll probably forget about this game until the next trailer comes out for it. Yeah, whenever that may be.
I forgot that Haven led the show until you just said it. Like I had a list that I hadn't pulled up yet, but what was it? It's not free. What's it called? I have a list. Hang on. It has a money symbol at the end of it, which automatically concerned me.
Fair game.
Yeah.
Fair games.
Yeah. Fair games. Yeah.
So it led the show, which means, again, PlayStation must be confident enough that, like, hey, this is worth putting out there, even if it's just a CG trailer. But for the most part, we'll just have to wait and see. It is coming to PS5 and PC, which means it probably is in that live service aspect. We don't know what it's going to be in terms of, like, is it going to be a full-price game? It's PlayStation. Probably all their live service games will be full-price games. So we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. But overall, getting one of their new studios game announced officially, I think, is a good move and is something that was needed, especially because a lot of their other first parties, their established ones, didn't have much of anything at this event. So at least get the new people up and running. Then we follow this up with Helldivers 2 from Arrowhead Games. If you remember Helldivers, that was like an earlier PS4 game. I think it was also on PS3. It was PS3,
Yep.
Vita, and PS4. It's changed though. It is now a third-person shooter. Before it was top-down. I really liked Helldivers, but
I enjoyed playing Helldivers with friends as well.
Yeah, there was some issues with it, which is why a lot of people kind of went away with it. I don't remember what those issues were. It was like server.
There's a lot of it. I felt like a lot of it was server, but a lot of it was friendly fire, and you could grief in the game a lot. And it was just when the online gaming community, like cooperative things, was like coming up. But I just felt like there was a certain point in time where like the gaming community and the random communities weren't mature enough for this kind of game in terms of being a team supported thing, even with randoms. And it looks cool. It does look very intriguing. I believe. Okay, yeah, this is PS5 and PC as well.
Coming
so
later this year.
Yeah, so this is probably another live service game as well that I never even considered. Is Arrowhead owned by Sony?
No, they are not. Arrowhead is their own thing, and I believe they were former Blizzard people.
Yeah. So just to clarify, this is not a first-party Sony game.
Yeah.
They own. I believe Sony owns the IP.
Yes.
But this is so this is like 1.5 party.
Yeah. And this is like the perfect thing. Do you think going third person helps it, or does it kind of just throws it in the it helps it marketing?
Yeah, I think it helps it marketability wise. I do miss to be honest with you, I do miss the Dead Nation, Helldivers top down kind of shoot 'em up things. I do miss that a little bit, but again, I think if you showed something in 2023 as an asymmetrical, or top down style, it's just not going to move. It's not going to move units right now.
Yeah, it basically limits what it can do. This now at least gives it the chance to find a larger audience. I do like the vibe to it. It seems like it's a little bit more comical than what we had in the first one.
Yeah, 100%. If enough of my friends buy this game, I'm buying it. Mm-hmm. So.
This would be one of those ones that you would hope that they just put it day one PlayStation Plus, like they've done for a couple of the indie games, because that would help this significantly. And I think Helldivers was
or something like this does. You try free to play on this with a lot of cosmetics in the third person mode. There's a lot of first person games that have tons of cosmetics that the player can't even see. So a third person, you can see the cosmetics, you can see the effects. Whether it's even you could start getting into how things explode when you do an ability. There's a lot of interesting things you could do with that. It's just a matter of if you can keep the player base intrigued and continuously give them content that makes them, I'm almost getting to the point where I feel like maybe 90 days is too long for a season.
It can be, depending on how big the community is. If it's a small community, you need to drag that out, or you need to shorten it. But this looked good. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh shit, are they really advertising that Starship Trooper game that just released on PC this week? And it's no, they're doing Helldivers 2, which I completely forgot this leaked a year ago. Gameplay of Helldivers 2 made it out there. But yeah, no, I was I'm intrigued by this. I want to play it. I'm gonna miss the old Helldivers, but if I always love a good just bullshit co-op game. So
I hated getting griefed in the first Helldivers and getting kicked off the helicopter or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
so annoying.
The friendly fire stuff was super annoying too, which is why I think I just played with friends at a certain point, because it just got annoying.
Or setting a bomb down, you don't realize the circumference that the bomb's going to explode, and you mess up your buddy who had a huge setup already. So. And
then you would always have those people, if you played with randoms right before you're getting on a helicopter, you get griefed and shot because they're dicks, and you're just cool, I didn't pass the mission. But we'll move on to the next one, which is a game you've been excited about talking about last couple weeks, Immortals of Avion. This is a EA original from Ascendant Studios. It's first person spell casting shooter sort of game, and we got to see a bunch of different areas. A decent amount of gameplay was shown here, which it's a game that you've talked about, and I've seen clips on Twitter, but it never really did anything for me until I saw it in this extended clip.
It looks very cool.
And launching soon, July 20th, so that's only a month and change away. And pre-orders are live now for that, which I need to look up just to see how much it's going for. Because I'm curious about this, and this was a really good showcase for this game. This was probably one of better things that showed during this presentation, which is crazy because we're talking about an EA game.
Mm-hmm.
But anything on? Did they sell you more than what you were
No.
already excited about?
It's a $70 game.
Okay.
So, no, they did not. I'm kind of one of those people, like, I love first person games, and I like to see I like to see companies make, risks, and doing a first person, I guess the nicest way to call this is a first person gesture game, because that's really, they're making a lot of gestures and they're shooting out spells and abilities. I think it's really cool. And the best thing I like about this is, I guess we've heard about this for a while, but like a lot of the trailers and the hype and stuff around it have been in the last 30 days. 45 days, and it comes out in the next 30 to 45 days, or the next 60 days. And so, like, this is the part that I'm happy about, that I don't have to, I see something cool, I like it, I don't have to wait 2 years to play it.
Yeah.
And forget it's coming or not coming. Like, right now, like, this is going to be a game that I'm tentatively planning to play in July when it comes out. Like, I don't see any reason to there's nothing that has scared me off from it at all, even though it is an EA game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the only thing, is it's an EA game. It's an EA original. I'm wondering what the size and scope of this thing's going to ultimately be. But the gameplay mechanics look pretty damn fun, and it looks good. So EA,
do you see this game coming to either service though?
If it struggles, I think EA is
no, but like not at launch at all.
No, I think if it was coming to PlayStation Plus, we would have had that announcement today. And Xbox just dropped like a tweet being like, hey, like 9-10 of these games are coming, which I'll pull that up for later use.
That picture.
Yeah, Xbox was like, hey, a bunch of these games are coming to Game Pass day one. And I don't think it was on there, but let me just double check, because it was quite a large list. It was some quality trolling by Xbox.
I thought the picture that I saw from them was that they were coming to Xbox also, not necessarily to Game Pass.
Let me pull that up. Coming to Xbox.
It was not Game Pass.
Yeah.
But it still was very interesting, like on the heels of so many games, like, and rightfully so, you had an hour showcase and so many games, and at least half are that they showed. Like, I think that picture is of 12 games or 9. Yeah, 12 games.
And it was probably over 20.
So. It was very interesting. Yeah, because I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, there was a lot. Yeah, if you take out the VR. But yeah. Okay.
All right, next game is Ghost Runner 2. Dave, I forget that Ghost Runner is a popular franchise because I've never played it.
Didn't it just come? Didn't Ghost Runner just come out though, and didn't it not run well?
No. It came out a couple years ago. You might be thinking of a different game. But Ghost Runner is popular. It's funny, when I first saw it, when they first showed it, I was like, oh, is this a Bungie game? Because I just immediately associate those helmets with Bungie and Destiny. So I was like, oh, Destiny looks good. But then I realized it was Ghost Runner. And then I was just like, shit, I need to really get on Ghost Runner because it seems to be pretty cool, and it seems pretty popular as well. But I don't really have any thoughts on Ghost Runner 2.
Yeah, me neither. So.
All right. Next one we'll look at is Phantom Blade Zero. This is coming from S-Game, coming to PS5. So this one, it looks like it's like a Soulsy sort of game. It looks like really large maps. It was very gray and lacked color, which kind of bummed me out. I thought we were over.
And then not that it's a huge deal, but like, especially in an early on trailer, like very gruesome.
Yeah, very gruesome, which is, I'm kind of getting used to these showcases just being like, here's ultra violence. We told you E through M is going to be here.
Yeah.
But it is always surprising because there was years where they just weren't doing these sort of trailers during showcases, so it always throws me off when I see it. But this was...
Go ahead.
This is one that there was no release window. I don't even think there was a year thrown on it, so I don't know what's going on from there. S-Game, I'm not too familiar with that company.
And maybe this is me being in the video game critiquing or content creation podcasting business too long, but and if you think if the answer to this question is that you think I'm overthinking it, then that's fine if you don't want to answer it. Does this game look problematic to control to you?
No. This kind of looks like.
Because there were certain situations where I saw him like, or the main character, like when he was fighting, like with people on his left side and his right side, and like just watching like the combo that the character was doing, the hero was doing, and I'm like, how am I gonna do that with a controller? Like, how am I gonna block and slash to the left and then also kick to the right, and like, and again, I fully am aware that I might be overthinking this, and it could be just more of like a combo that turns into like a quick time thing.
Yeah, no, I think like if you'd play more games like Neo and stuff like that, you'd probably be a little bit more comfortable with it. Nothing looked too complicated. I am intrigued by the whole like premise of like they emphasize several times through the trailer like you got 66 days to live, so I'm wondering how that plays out. But yeah, definitely looked like they were trying like a fluid combat to where I could see why that would possibly like bring questions up to you as someone who doesn't really play like third person action melee games.
Okay.
But it seems possible, but this also is one of those games where I both like and dislike Sony for this. They don't put themselves in trouble with like deadline stuff during their showcases. Like Xbox has screwed themselves over so many times by being like
the next 12 games you see are in the next 6 months.
Yeah, and then none of them hit. Like PlayStation doesn't care about that, and I both like and dislike that because like I don't know when this game will come out or if it will ever come out. As opposed to Xbox, who will make promises and then never keep them. So I don't know how long this game's going to be. I hope there's more to it because the trailer was very like gray and kind of bland looking. So maybe I'll see something else from this and I'll be intrigued more. Because especially after seeing like we'll talk about later Dragon's Dogma 2, that looks like it's trying to do something not quite similar, but similar enough that looks visually more like interesting and fun. But we'll move on to the next one. Dave, I don't know if you had the same vibe from this one, but it makes sense. Sword of the Sea. As soon as I saw it, I was just like, are they remastering Journey? And then when they said like from the creator of Abzu and Pathless, I'm like, oh, okay, so the fucking artist of Journey. And then I think it even hit that title card of like the artist from
my wife.
Journey.
My wife was looking down, and then she looked up, and she's like, "Is this a sequel to Journey?"
Yeah. But then as soon as I saw the Abzu stuff, I'm just like, oh yeah, no, the artist left that game company a long time ago and made their own studio. This definitely is something I am into. Giant Squid games. Like I loved Abzu when that game came out because that was totally just like, here's the art style from Journey, but it's got a lot of underwater elements. I didn't play the Pathless, but everything shown here.
I keep wanting to play that game
because people talk about it. Like there's a lot of a lot of stuff going on in that game. People liked it. This looks like it's more of like the Pathless because Journey was not really heavy and like things happening, and same thing with Abzu. Those are more about exploration. This seems like it's going down the Pathless vibe, and I'm cool with that. Like maybe I'll pick up the Pathless now. And finally check that out. But this looks really good. I'm interested to see where this goes. And I liked what this brought to the event, to the showcase. Like this immediately made me go, cool, we're going to see indie games. And we ended up seeing quite a few indie games at the event. But like I think this was a good intro to be like, hey, indie games are here. Because we didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
We didn't know.
It looked really cool. It did. It looked very cool. Very colorful, very interesting art style. You know, very cool looking.
Yeah. And next one, we got the Talos Principle 2. So this is just more puzzles, more environments, new story. It did have a tagline of making it seem like it might be like a prequel. To the Talos Principle, which, Dave, I don't know if you remember Talos Principle. That is like a puzzle game from whenever I went to PAX, like from 2018. So this is like a sequel, long time in the making.
Not at all. No idea what this is.
Yeah, no, this is a puzzle game. Talos Principle 1 was really good, but it's been a long time since that game came out. And we're getting a sequel to come out this year for PS5. But we'll move on to the next one, which is another indie game that that I really like the first one, and that's Gris. The developers of Gris, Nomada Studio, they're releasing a game called Neva, Neva, and this is like a 2D animated game. This was the really colorful trailer where like the woman was like fighting like a bunch of darkness like coming over to the world. But yeah, this looks like a pretty indie game from developers that make pretty indie games. So I don't know if this did anything for you, but it's coming next year to PS5.
It did not do anything for me.
Yeah. Next one, which I was a little confused why this made it into the showcase, Cat Quest Pirates of the Caribbean. I know people like the Cat Quest games, but it just seemed odd that this made it into the showcase. Nothing wrong with Cat Quest, but it just seems like they needed to fill out the indie list, if that makes sense, Dave. Because like it just, the trailer just kind of came and went, and I didn't think it was like a big enough franchise to justify being in this thing. So I'll just move on.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, unless you have some like hard hitting thoughts on Cat Quest, Pirates of the Caribbean, we could just move on to one of the more confusing things. So the Square Enix logo popped up, which immediately, gets me to like pop up out of my seat because immediately like, oh, Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, what are we doing? But no, it's Foam Stars, a 4v4 party shooter where your character shoot foam out that changed like the play field, and it almost looked like Splatoon. With like some like, I don't know. I got like Dave, you love K-pop and League of Legends. What is the K-pop band from League of Legends? There's a K-pop band that's in League of Legends.
Why the hell would you look at me to answer that question?
I don't know, Dave. I was hoping you can perform a miracle.
This is a game like during the reveal, during the CG part, that I was already not liking how it looked, and then it got worse when it switched to gameplay, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I immediately said, in 6 months, Square Enix is going to be like, this game did not hit our expectations.
Yeah, the K-pop band in League of Legends is KDA.
Yeah.
Oh, someone put it in the
see,
comments. Okay.
You're asking the wrong person, man. Okay. Your buddy knew.
Okay, Advent knew. Yeah, for some reason I thought like we were getting like
Curry. Absolutely not. No chance. I do not like K-pop.
I thought like when they first showed this trailer, I'm like, is it like a KDA sort of thing? But it turned out to be this weird like Splatoonish thing, and I don't want to write off a game because I'm immediately comparing it to Splatoon or another game.
But it looks like you're trying to rip off Splatoon.
Yeah, and that's the problem. To where like if Splatoon didn't exist,
like, do you really want to go around and shoot soap?
I don't know, but like
in a competitive environment,
the idea that like the weapons you're shooting transform the playfield is intriguing. I think this game would be more.
How do you kill somebody with soap?
I mean, what if they're made out of dirt, Dave? If you drink soap, you get like you throw up or have diarrhea. So, like, bad things can happen.
You don't die.
You can get poisoning. You can get poisoning. But like if Splatoon didn't exist, I wonder if this game would have caught my attention. But because Splatoon exists and I immediately compare it to Splatoon, I'm just like kind of put off by this. And then also the idea that Square Enix is putting this out, this baffles me even more. Of like Square Enix, the company that shits on anything that's not Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
For a company that does that, they make some weird decisions.
It's going up to home plate with the power hitter that either if he makes contact, it's going over the fence, but he makes contact like 1 out of 40 times. Yeah.
No, it's rough, and I don't understand the decisions they make. But we'll have this.
The CEO of Square Enix is scrambling for his job.
The one thing that I there was no release date put on it or anything. I wonder if this even comes out, or if this somehow gets embraced like Square Enix.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Square Enix.
And then it goes to Embracer, and then it's successful.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, this free to play. Like if it was free to play, maybe it has a chance. But I completely, I don't know. Devolver Digital showed up and they brought a trailer for The Plucky Squire, which I believe when this game was shown off like 2 years ago, you were you were
Absolutely
interested
in.
This
This gives me so much Paper Mario vibe.
Paper Mario vibe, and then the narrator gave me Little Big Planet vibes, and it's just like
this is a must play. This is must play for me.
Yeah, this is a perfect you and Owen sort of experience.
Forget him. I'm playing.
No, I know. There'll be the one where after you finish it, you're like, hey, look at this. But this is coming from Devolver Digital, and I say it at home so many times, but like, if it's a Devolver Digital game, I kind of trust them to like do really
absolutely.
well with it. Whoever's in charge of curating their partnerships does a pretty good job.
It's the theme of this show tonight, and the theme of PlayStation Showcase. Where are the dates? Where are the dates?
Yeah.
Coming in 2023.
Devolver, I believe, is doing their own showcase, so they could drop a trailer or drop a release date.
I'll be a little less irritated after like Father's Day, like after Summer Game Fest. Like, but there is a lot of like overall in this broad paintbrush that Sony used today. There is a lot of disappointment of lack of dates and just odd choices.
Yeah, another odd choice, Teardown. This was a game that Jeff Keighley was super into 2-3 years ago at one of the Game Awards. But when it came out, people just weren't that into it when it came out on PC a couple years ago. So the idea that it got a featured spot in the showcase seemed kind of odd to me, because I don't feel like the game really reviewed well or justified the spotlight that it got at the Game Awards. But Teardown was there. No release window for this one, but it is coming out this year, apparently. We'll see if it makes it. So, Dave, any Teardown thoughts, or I'm just gonna move on?
I immediately said I don't want Owen to play this game because it encourages destruction.
Maybe it could be his focus point on when he does want to destroy things. All right. The thing that was like the worst kept secret happened. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snakeeater was announced. This is a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3. The biggest question going into this event was, when they release the trailer for Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake, what are they going to call it? Because they're basically reshifting the chronological order for the Metal Gear games, because it sounds like they're going to be remaking and remastering most of them. So their Snakeeater is the first one in a timeline, but it happens to be the third game, so they're just going to call it Metal Gear Solid Delta so they can bring new fans in. But
so they are calling it Delta?
Yes. That triangle.
All the thumb. Okay, the triangle is Delta.
Yes.
So it's Metal Gear Solid Delta
yes.
Snakeeater.
Yes.
Okay.
That triangle symbol is Delta. But
okay.
It was very confusing because a lot of people are like, what the fuck are you really going to call it Metal Gear Solid? It wasn't until press releases came out that they confirmed it's Delta. But cinematic trailer, so we didn't see a ton, but we at least got all the greatest hits that you would want. You got to see, I believe it's Big Boss in Metal Gear Solid Snakeeater. Yeah, pretty sure. And then also you got to hear a little bit of that amazing song. This is coming out sometime. No release date, no window on it, but they are bringing Metal Gear Solid 2, and the original Snakeeater to PS5 in autumn. I worry they're just going to be part of the streaming from PS3. I'm hoping that's not the case, and they actually just put native ports out for these games, or bring them out as PS2 classics if they're just going to give us like the originals. Dave, as someone who's never played a Metal Gear game,
I've dabbled in them slightly, but I don't think I've ever done one start to finish.
Okay.
I understand the iconicness of these games and then some of the cool storytelling, and depending on how long they actually take to beat, like this could be something that could be used as a caveat to get me in. I could see myself playing Delta more than any of the other. If they're just copying and pasting the other games and sticking them on the services, I don't have a desire to play an old clunky game.
Yeah.
But I could see myself possibly giving Delta a chance. I think that I will not play the if the other original like PS1 games are just automatically ported over without any kind of polish. I will not do that. But I could see myself attempting to play Delta.
Yeah, especially Delta technically is the first in the timeline. So it's a good starting off point if they do decide to go down a path of like, hey, we're just going to release all of the Metal Gear games remastered and remade. I do think this prevented Death Stranding 2 from being on the show because Kojima isn't involved in any of this. So I'm assuming Death Stranding 2 will now be at Jeff Keighley's thing, which isn't too surprising. But I'm super excited for this. What I'm not excited for is the fact that one, Kojima's not a part of it, and two, Konami hasn't really made a fucking video game in several years. So I'm just super curious on what studio's working on this, and is it a good studio? And also, is Konami going to give the studio the right amount of money to make this happen? That is my fear from this announcement, but I'm hoping that it goes well. Next game, we got Towers of Agasaba. This was that wildlife one where the kid was like making trees and plants grow out. That's coming in 2024. I need to see more, I think. But I don't know about you, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, actually the thing that impressed me the most was about this game is how it looked. It did look very very detailed, actually, and then the movement too of, it's got a little bit of Breath of the Wild, Fortnite, like hang glider thing to it, and I was just more impressed about the ability for the character to move and to drop and descend large spans of the world, and it seemed to be holding up okay. So that was, I don't have any clue of who it is, what's going on, what the premise is, other than it looks really pretty and you fly on a hang glider.
Yes. Yeah. That is pretty much all I took away from it. I want to see more of this. This definitely seems like my sort of game. But not too many thoughts after that. Then if we want to move on, we got what I'm calling the bathroom break. Which was Final Fantasy 16. That is no slight to Final Fantasy 16. I'm just fucking tired of seeing trailers for this game.
And we're 3 weeks out.
Yeah.
So, what are you really showing? So.
And it was a meaty trailer. And all the previews for the game are hitting this week, and most of them are positive. So I'm kind of Final Fantasy 16 out right now.
This is an agreement for marketing. That's it.
Yeah.
This is Sony trying to get its money.
Yeah, this was like, hey, you need to have a trailer in the middle of this whole event. And they're like, okay, we've done state of plays, but okay. I think there might be more, Final Fantasy 16 will probably be at Summer Game Fest as well. So we're probably not done seeing this game.
What is it, June 22nd?
I believe so. Should be. Moving on from there, we got an awesome trailer for Alan Wake 2 and a release date. They have a release date. October 17th, Alan Wake 2 is coming to PS5 and I believe PC and other platforms. Epic Games is publishing this.
So it's only on the Epic Store.
Yeah.
It's cheaper on the Epic Store than it is on consoles by, I think, about $20, and it will not have a physical release at all.
Yeah, no physical release, which I'm assuming that means a limited run, or one of the other companies will have a limited pressing of the game. And if the game's successful, I'm sure they will end up doing some discs. But it's not too surprising that it's going to be digital only. I don't think this is going to be a gigantic game because Remedy's kind of spread super thin across a bunch of different projects. And it's cool turnaround time. They just announced this game 2-3 years ago, and here we are, game coming out this year. The trailer looked good. Dave, I don't know if you played the first one or if this one looks intriguing enough to at least attempt.
Actually, I think... on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say the gameplay difficulty is in this game?
It's not too bad. It's mostly just about controlling your flashlight. I remember the battery mechanic was a little annoying, but...
I think Angela could play this.
How jump scary can she get?
If it's jump scares to be jump scares, she'll be fine. If it's jump scares to be grotesque, she won't play.
Okay, it might be in between those two options.
Yeah.
So it might not work out fully. this looks good. I do like that they showed us like the characters you'll be playing as. Obviously, Alan Wake, and then the FBI agent. I think it was FBI.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening here, and I'm just glad Remedy is releasing one of their like 20 games that they're working on so soon, because they need to get those Max Payne remasters out, and those Control sequels out, and those multiplayer games out. But yeah, no, I like that we got a release date, and the next game got a release date as well, Assassin's Creed Mirage. So we got a trailer for that coming October 12th.
Remember us talking about weird decisions?
Yeah.
Why is this here?
I don't know, and Ubisoft already made an announcement earlier this week that's like, hey, don't expect Prince of Persia at the Ubisoft Forward.
Yeah. So unless there's a deep dive into Mirage gameplay and how Mirage is going to be the foundation for like the Assassin's Creed service stuff, which we believe it's, or like I think like when they first talked about this like a year ago or 2 years ago, this is supposed to be like kind of like the hub game, right?
No, so they announced the hub, and this is one of the parts of the hub, like the shorter experiences that are popping into it.
My only hope is that at the Ubisoft Forward they spend time like actually like having somebody like play the game and talk about what they've changed and kind of like the break, because we're talking about almost a 24 to 28 month Assassin's Creed break now, right?
Yeah,
since Valheim
out the expansions that they released to stretch
but it's just super interesting to me that this is shown and dated at the PlayStation Showcase when a Ubisoft Forward is on the books.
I think they're going to do exactly what you said, and they're going to do the deep dive, and then they're going to tell you about the different services that they're going to be attaching to this. They just wanted to get the release date out and then give people a reason to actually watch a Ubisoft Forward. Because I don't think there's a reason to watch the Ubisoft Forward unless, you get Assassin's Creed as like the headliner. I know you have reasons to watch it. But,
yeah.
But I think a vast majority of the Ubisoft fan base aren't Ubisoft fans. They're Assassin's Creed fans or Rainbow Six fans.
I agree. So.
This looked great. It definitely has those old school vibes that they were promising. That's mostly to do with the setting that allows.
Did you at all think that this was a possibility of a remake first?
No, because
that never crossed your mind. You knew it was a brand new game right at the jump.
Yeah. Well, at least right when they said Mirage back in the day when they first announced it, they named the character that's starring in it, and the character never had their own game.
You pay more attention to stuff than I do. Because I was thinking like, okay, is this a 2 or Brotherhood remake, or something?
No, they would have made such a bigger fanfare of it because people love SEO. But Mirage, like, again, I paid so much attention to Assassin's Creed up until like Black Flag. I think that was the last one that I like fully played. And this looks like it's going back to those roots that were so much fun. And the thing that scared me away from Assassin's Creed is they went from like 20-hour games to like these 100-hour RPGs. And I think Ubisoft finally just hit the point where they're like, hey, we made these games longer and it's not growing our fan base. It's actually shrinking our fan base slightly.
Yep.
That they're going to this
route.
If
this is a 15-hour Assassin's Creed game, with a good character building, a good conflict and a resolution, I might give it a shot. But I mean, if it's going to be this thing where I have to like climb a tower, unlock a quarter of the map, and then keep going and get the little all the little stamps all over the map.
That's what the 15-hour Assassin's Creed game is. It's the thing that I hate about Far Cry. Just a lot of it is set with like history.
Yeah.
But yeah. This looked good. If you're an Assassin's Creed fan, this is exactly what you wanted. If you're an old school Assassin's Creed fan, I don't know how the fans of like, there are people that absolutely love the later Assassin's Creed games because they're 100-hour experiences, and I wonder how those fans are going to take to like, hey, here's the last game that you paid $60 for lasted you 200 hours. This game that's now going to cost you $70 is going to like
it'd be 40 hours if you squeeze the hell out of it.
Yeah. And I want to know what the fan base is going to think about that. We got another indie game, Revenant Hill from the Glory Society. This was that cat game that almost looked like Night in the Woods game. No release window on it. Because I had a cat, I was like, this looks interesting. But when I saw no release window, I was kind of just like, okay, put that in the back of my head. Remind me in 2 years. And I hate being like that, but anytime there's no release window, I kind of just move on.
This is when I would have gone to the bathroom. If I had to go to the bathroom.
So you can't do that for the indie games because those trailers sometimes can be 10 seconds.
I know.
As soon as you see the Square Enix logo, you know you have like a 5-minute trailer coming and you can walk away. It's going to be about soap or it's going to be about Final Fantasy and you can just walk away. We got Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, the cinematic trailer with some gameplay. I don't really have much to say about this, Dave. This isn't marketed for us.
Yeah, this didn't resonate with me at all.
Yeah. Street Fighter 6, yeah, still looks good. It's kind of in that camp of Final Fantasy 16 for me, where I'm tired of seeing it.
It comes out next month too, right?
Yes, it's a June 2nd.
Like June 2nd?
Like next
that's
week?
what I thought. Yeah, soon,
Yeah.
like 2 weeks. Yeah, no, next week. Yeah. I guess that this is the course that fighting games have gone and sports games have gone, but like your fighter mode, like I'm just like, all right, whatever. Like, just tell a cool story with the characters you have already.
They're doing a lot of cool things with Street Fighter 6, and at this point, I'm just tired of hearing about them. I just want to see it. I want to play it.
Yeah.
And it's coming out next week, which is kind of crazy. June's going to be wild. And I'm really not interested in like any of the games coming out in June. The next game was a trippy, almost looked like a Metroidvania game.
This game got my attention.
Ultros is what it's called. Coming in 2024.
Guacamelee Metroid vibes.
Yeah,
so.
with like acid trip artwork.
Yeah.
Just looked like art coming to life. It looked really cool. It was one of those things where I'm just like, it didn't look like it did anything like different gameplay wise. But the art style just really popped and was something I'm just like, okay.
If the biggest thing about those kind of games though is like if there's an easy enough gameplay curve and they work. And what I mean is like if you're in a small enclosed area and you don't feel like you're being punished and the precision platforming is on point, then you're fine. Mm-hmm. But when it's not, people stop playing. Like Mega Man nailed it. Castlevania nailed it. Guacamelee nailed it. Ori and the Blind Forest nailed it. Or just the Ori franchise in general nailed it. There's a few that have like nailed it, and then there's some that just haven't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the thing that scares me about these is because a lot of these just come and go. I feel like we see a lot of these like 2D games that flash in a trailer and then they release and you're like, oh, that released 2 years ago. So it's something that concerns me about this, but you like Metroidvania, so I'm sure when it comes out you'll end up being like, I picked it up because it was available, and that's how I'll hear about it again.
I'll play this on my portable PC that you think I won't play.
Yeah, sure. You're gonna know where it is by the time this game comes out. You're gonna be like, yeah, no, I gave it to Owen for Minecraft and I don't know where it's at. The next game was Tower Fantasy. This was the fantasy game, anime looking game that had like cyberpunk elements.
Yeah, I immediately got like a Sailor Moon meets Monster Hunter vibe.
Yeah, I could see that. The screenshots from the PlayStation blog announcement just makes it look like several different games are happening here. Because there's like fantasy elements, there's a little bit of cyber future elements, and it's just anime girls. And yeah, this probably won't be something I'll play, but my friends will probably eat this up and I'll probably watch them stream it. That's probably will be my experience with that. But we will move on to Dragon's Dogma 2. This was the long in development. Still no release date, no release window for this. It looked really good.
It did. It looked cool.
At first, when they said Capcom and they're like doing the logo thing, I was like, oh shit, is it the new Monster Hunter game that's been rumored? But it was Dragon's Dogma, which I think most people are more excited for because it's been a long time coming and we're probably still a long time away from it releasing. It looks really good. It looks like it's taking the right elements from like, Japanese RPGs with a little bit of like Elden Ring, like not gameplay wise, but specifically like art wise, like the enemies look from software-ish but kind of a light version of that.
Mm-hmm.
This looked really good. I didn't play the first one, but this made me want to consider playing the first one, even though I think that's a PS3 game. Did it do enough for you, Dave?
No,
not enough. Okay. I know what you're super into, though. The next game, Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2.
Yeah, so this is a VR game as well.
Yes, we are about to hit the VR mode.
But I was confused by it. When I saw it like something else later, I saw that it said PlayStation VR 2, but it wasn't. It was before they started showing the headset.
Yeah, it's a in-between game. Like, you'll be able to play it outside of VR, I believe.
Yeah.
But it is coming late 2023 because holy shit do they pump these games out. I don't even want to... You know what? I'm going to look. How many games are in a Five Nights at Freddy franchise? Because it is a lot.
So, like, while he's doing that, so we got, some B-roll for, PlayStation VR 2. They're doing Resident Evil 4 in a VR mode. They're doing Arizona Sunshine 2 for VR. A Crossfire Sierra Squad. A game called End Dreams, and something called Synapse. Those are all for VR2. My concern with VR2 right now is a lot of these games actually said like currently in development for VR2. So again, we weren't getting any dates or windows on it. And other than the Crossfire Sierra Squad, it didn't really do much for me at all. Like, VR just apparently is like this just zombie gore machine.
Yeah, for the most part, like Arizona Sunshine, that was like that's a VR franchise that's relatively popular. The Resident Evil 4 stuff looked really good, but we knew it was coming. Five Nights at Freddy, I looked up, there's like over a dozen games in that franchise. Crossfire looked good, but it's coming from Smilegate. Crossfire, isn't it the multiplayer game that they just shut down? That they were working on with Remedy like just earlier this year, so I'm not really confident in Crossfire as a franchise. The Beat Saber one is both like, it's good that they released it today, but Beat Saber should have been on VR2 day one, so it almost felt like that they were wasting a spot to include Beat Saber in this showcase, but I think that's the only thing that they could shadow drop, so they just went for it. The VR stuff was really disappointing, but Dave, according to PlayStation, it's selling better than the first one. They've already sold 600,000 units, and that's really good for VR. I just don't think they're doing enough for those people that invested in VR 2.
Yeah, because any VR owner I have right now that I know, PSVR 2 owner I have right now, is just starved for software.
Yeah, and the stuff that they announced here are like, hey, here's a VR mode for Resident Evil. Here's another Arizona game, and here's Beat Saber, which you probably own a dozen times over.
Yeah, which is apparently is a free upgrade now.
Yeah,
if you owned it on PSVR, you get it for PSVR 2.
And how much are those people wanting to play Beat Saber again? Even though it's a really fun game, and some people use it for exercise, still, like the Beat Saber one is like, this should have been here day one, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were hoping for Half-Life Alyx. They did not get that, and that's just either Sony doesn't want to pay for it or Valve doesn't want to put the time into it. It's a shame, because that's still like the best example of VR, and it's not on your new platform. So we'll move on from there to probably one of the biggest announcements from this event, and that is Bungie's new game. They are rebooting Marathon, which... Dave, that was not on my bingo card. I forgot. I thought Marathon stayed with Microsoft when they...
No, because it was before Microsoft.
Yeah, it was, but I still associated it with Microsoft for whatever reason. But
this is just a Marathon game by name.
Yeah, but this
that's it.
This is a reboot, I'm assuming, since it's not Marathon 4.
Yeah.
This looked great. Like, I'm glad Bungie's doing like it's first person, I believe they already said.
Yeah, it will. Yeah. It's a first person PvP extraction shooter.
Yeah. And Bungie knows how to do shooters. Like, they still do. Like, that's the one thing you can't take away from Destiny is it still feels good to play.
And a lot of the people that had a significant impact on Destiny's PvE and PvP functionality over the last 10 years of this game have now, like, they are now working on Marathon. And
probably for a couple years.
As a Destiny fan, it does concern me. But because there is a part of me that does not have any tangible desire to play a PvP style game, a PvP centric only game.
But,
now,
but
I will play it. Yeah, I will play it. Because it's Bungie and it's a first person shooter and there's loot in it, so I will play it. But maybe I'm confident that it won't be as twitchy as other first person competitive shooters. Just because hasn't been Bungie style for a long time. Halo wasn't twitchy. Destiny's not that twitchy. And I would assume this would not be either. How fascinated are you that this is coming to Xbox?
I'm not, because when Bungie was acquired, they said multi-platform was a big thing for them, and I think Bungie probably put in that, like, Bungie has it in their contract that their games will be on whatever platforms they want, and I think that was very important to Bungie when they agreed to be acquired, because they know if you want to do a multiplayer game today...
Yeah, I mean, they're doing the whole gambit, cross-play, cross-save.
And they know, like, if you want your game to survive, you need it to be accessible to as many people as possible. So I'm not surprised that it's coming to Xbox, PC, day one, along with PlayStation. I was very surprised that other people were surprised by that fact. When they were acquired, said that they are still a multi-platform studio. And we talked about this for so much when they were acquired. PlayStation did not buy Bungie for just the exclusive games. They bought them for a knowledge base and for their skills and expertise that they can add to the PlayStation like family. And that means we get multi-platform Bungie games, because that's what Bungie
It also tells me that Bungie whether people are going to like this or not going to like this, Bungie is generating enough money and enough revenue from Destiny and Destiny 2 to essentially afford to publish this game, because that's to essentially self-publish this game. Yes, Sony's probably going to help with the marketing because it benefits them. Yeah, but if Bungie needed Sony's funding to make this game outside of the parameters of whatever deal that Sony and Bungie made, this probably wouldn't be on Xbox.
Yeah,
it's weird. Like, a lot of the wording we heard was very weird, of where Bungie can do what they want to do, and in Bungie stands on its own. But there are situations where it sounds like Sony and Bungie will reach into like a direct publishing partnership.
Yeah, I think it's more like PlayStation does own Bungie, so it's just Bungie's like, hey, we have a game, our contract says it could be multi-platform, give us the money. Like, you'll get the money. Well,
all right, let me ask you this then. When we turn Marathon on for the first time and you boot it up, is it going to have the PlayStation Studios logo on it?
100%.
No, it won't, because they're not.
I know they were put in that infograph that was released. They were outside of the circle.
Yeah, it's not gonna have the PS Studios logo on it. I'm sorry.
It will have a PlayStation Studios logo. I think it will, because they're going to say they helped. If not, that's going to be a big issue when it comes to everything, because they're still owned by Sony. I know it sounds like, from what we hear,
it wasn't at the beginning of the trailer.
They didn't have to be necessarily.
It's been at the beginning of all the other trailers today.
I still think you'll see the PlayStation logo. You'll see it somewhere on the game. Will it be before
I think you'll
Bungie?
see as a Sony, as a no, I think you'll see like a Sony corporation thing. Like,
I will at least.
No,
see
I'm
that.
talking about the PlayStation Studios logo, where it's like that white box with the PlayStation logo, and then in black, and underneath it says Studios in white.
I think you'll still see it. I think you'll still see it by the time this comes out. But Dave, is the Destiny 2 name for their next expansion the thing that concerns you, called the Final Shape, that they did right after this?
No, I've known they've told us it's going to be called the Final Shape for about 3 years. This is technically the end of the Light and Dark saga. They have come out and said multiple times that this is
sounding shit if I've ever heard.
Yeah. That this is the end of like the main storyline, that their 10-year storyline, but this is not the end of Destiny 2. a lot of people today were like, "Oh, it's going to be Destiny 3," and I'm like, they've been pretty clear that they're not going to do a Destiny 3. I could see them using this split to either go back and calling it Destiny with no logo on it, no number on it at all. But this is also probably the last time you can play this on an Xbox One or a PS4.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Last gen will be over.
Yeah.
I think. You think it's like? Are we over the big expansions for Destiny after this? Are we going to move to smaller content?
No.
Okay. Do you think it's still worth putting the resources, or is that going to depend on like if Marathon blows up? If Marathon blows up, like, do you think like Destiny's still like, hey, it's a priority, or it's just like it exists?
I think Bungie has proven that there is a substantial need for a player versus environment first person service game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think they've proven that. Like, without a doubt, they've proven that, and I think that will continue, because I can't really think of any other player versus environment. You know, yes, Destiny has PvP, but it's 80% player versus environment. That there's no competitor in that field. So why would you give up?
I mean, there might be a competitor when we talk about the next game in the FPS thing from Sony. I don't know if Destiny is going to go on forever, though, is my whole thing.
I don't think it's necessarily going to go on forever, but I think it has at least another 5 or 6 years.
I almost feel like this next one could be the last big one, and then we get smaller stuff. I don't think Destiny's going to ever die, but I just don't see Bungie continuing with PlayStation as their owner.
Actually, you know what? I take it back. So, could this be the end of named expansions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Big expansions.
Yes. Named, but they will still do huge story things every 3 months.
Every 3 months, like you don't think it's going to slow down to like, hey, once a year?
No.
Like, it's not going to go into the World of Warcraft phase of just like, hey, every year or so we'll have some big content. Like, we'll still do smaller stuff, but big named expansions are further out.
I don't think we're going to get $50 to $60, $40, $50, $60 expansions. Like, you could look at the numbers. I'd have to look at the numbers this week, but yesterday a new season launched, and I guarantee you saw a high.
No, and I get that. I don't think it'll be dead in like 3 years, but I'm saying like 5 years. Like, I just don't see it. But
did you, when they first announced it, did you see them supporting it for 10 years?
No, and they barely like did that, but they were able to figure out a way after they got.
They barely did that. They had
to get away from Activision, and then they
still hit it.
They still hit
it.
And they've been having to deal with the community like being very toxic towards what content they brought out. But I know they've hit it. I just don't know. It's just hard for me to think.
Bungie talking today, and announcing 2 things. One which we knew of, one we kind of knew of but didn't know what it was called. Like, other than Spider-Man, they're the highlight of the showcase.
Yeah, and I think it's Marathon over the Final Shape. Though, Cade 6, that was Nathan Fillion's voice, and I know that's a big deal. So,
for some people, I think people are setting themselves up to be disappointed, but
he's just here to get killed again. I just don't see Destiny lasting forever under the PlayStation umbrella. I know we just talked about how they have that weird relationship. I just wonder when the tires fall off of that like relationship.
I only see that potential if a third IP comes out from them.
And I think there's a third IP
4
still.
years.
I still think there's a third IP. I don't think Marathon's the big thing they've been working on.
There's a mobile IP, 100%.
I don't think Marathon...
But that mobile IP, I think, is Destiny focused.
Which is fine. I'm just thinking of Destiny in its current form. Destiny 2, or if they rename it just Destiny. Like, I don't know. Unless Sony tells them, like, we need Destiny 3. Kind of how Activision told them, like, hey, we need Destiny 2. We're not doing Destiny for 10 years. We need Destiny 2.
Then if I'm Bungie, I go pay for my new engine.
Which PlayStation would probably be like, hey, we got the Gorilla engine.
I'm just saying, like, if I'm Sony, if I'm Bungie, I'm like, you got to pay for my engine, or you got to give me an engine.
Yeah. And PlayStation has plenty of studios that they could be like, hey, we got plenty of in-house engines.
We either keep making Destiny 2, or you give me an engine.
But I do think Bungie, if they feel like there's no growth or stability, if the numbers go down, like any studio would walk away from.
Yeah.
If they need to. We'll just have to see how this next expansion goes and what they announce after that, because they At least Bungie's really good at doing roadmaps.
Well, here, you know what? We'll know the answer to your question by the end of August.
Yes,
because
August
they're
22nd.
talking about final. We're talking about final. They are talking about final shape and the future.
Yep. So we'll see what the future holds.
So to answer your question, 2 years ago when they did it around August timeframe, I think when they announced Beyond Light or Witch Queen, I can't remember which one. They said they laid out like the next 3 years,
and then that's what I'm looking. That's what I was going to say. Like
yeah.
they're really good at putting roadmaps out, so we'll have our answer.
Yeah.
The next announcement was another new studio from PlayStation that they acquired not too long ago. Firewalk Studios released a trailer that Dave. The trailer didn't tell us anything about the game. It looked cool. I had an idea of what I thought it was going to be, but it turns out it is a first-person shooter PvP multiplayer game, which I did not get that vibe from that at all. And now they have multiple shooters.
It's 80% Bungie. What do you think it's going to be?
It's just funny, though, of just like... there's nothing much to say. Like, I almost feel like this trailer didn't need to exist because they already did a trailer that at least was like, they did the fair game trailer, which at least had some CGI style to it.
See how much you struggle to say that name?
Because I was like thinking in my head of like, what was it called? And there's a $sign somewhere. Visually, it looked cool, but there wasn't much here. I had to read the PlayStation.
How did you see to say that? The locker? It looked Borderlands-ish to me, if you ask me.
I thought we were getting like a competitive space shooting game, and it's just they said PvP first-person shooter. And
I'm convinced at this point that Haven and Firewalk sold Sony stuff off a whiteboard.
No, I think that Sony was like, you guys are really...
Where the hell is this game at? Like this game should be farther along. Like, we should have seen something.
Yeah, well, this at least shows you that... I don't even know, but like as soon as I saw like right now I'm looking through the screenshots and there's this is the table with bullets on it, and I'm just like, man, don't put this in the same showcase where Bungie's showing their first person shooter. You know, don't do that. And also Haven announced their first person shooter. We went earlier being like PlayStation really needs a first person shooter, so now we have
Well, we think Haven is third person.
No, I believe hold on, let me go back.
We were just talking about that. I said I could see a first-person possibility, but I believe it's third person.
I'm looking at the blog post because that's where you get the actual info. Because they don't put anything. Shit. Okay, I only see PvP. So
yeah. Okay.
So it's probably third person.
I mean, I knew, like, I was fairly confident that this game was a first-person competitive shooter. So.
But
Concord, right?
Concord, yeah. Not too sure about the name. Looked kind of cool, but when I saw a first-person shooter, I was like, you probably shouldn't have followed this up. You shouldn't have followed the Bungie stuff with this. There's a place for it at PlayStation Studios, but I just think you put
especially
this
when on the heels of like Bungie doesn't have to show gameplay, they can show Cade 6 and they can make the world melt.
Mm-hmm. And then their previous one of like, hey, something new from Bungie, which I think gets a ton of people excited because I think there's a lot of people.
Oh yeah, as soon as that name came across the screen in that green and white like implemented their logo into the Fade trailer, people, you know, I was kind of like talking. I think my daughter had just come home and I saw that go across the screen. I'm like, oh, stop. I was like, I got to see what this is.
So. And the thing is, you have people like me who like, I like Destiny 1, but I just kind of got tired of Destiny.
Yeah.
But I like Bungie. So seeing Bungie doing something else is immediately going to grab my attention. And I don't know, Concord, I feel like you needed to show more for anyone to be excited.
Show shooting.
Mm-hmm. And also space it out where it doesn't follow Bungie. Don't follow Bungie.
Yeah.
Bungie, honestly, probably in a perfect world would have ended this showcase if they didn't have Spider-Man coming out in like 4 months. Mm-hmm. And that would have probably been like earth-shattering. You would have started with the Destiny news and then ended with the Marathon news. Yeah. And you would have been set. Dave, let's talk about hardware. Okay. All right. PlayStation, Jim Ryan popped up. He introed the whole show, which just kind of made me laugh because he had no purpose there. And then he was like, hey, we're also in the hardware. And he announced Project Q, a dedicated streaming device that is only for remote play, and it looks like someone just glued to it looks like a backbone controller with its
It looks like the touchpad had a baby.
Yeah, it's just a screen with two ends of the dual sense strapped onto it, and it's one of the ugliest pieces of tech I think I've seen. It just looks terrible. And then when you get hit with the it only works with remote play. Who is this for?
I don't know.
What?
And remote play is not stable enough.
No, especially like
I can't run remote play on this $1,500 PC and my PlayStation's upstairs.
Yeah. And your internet is really good because you're running, through your Wi-Fi signal. I don't understand the purpose of this machine. It's like they want to answer to Switch, but they're too scared to. And they want to answer to Switch, and they also want to answer like the Game Pass.
I can't throw this in my backpack and take this to work.
I mean, technically, you can get remote play to work outside of your home, but you're gonna have to be like, "Hey, Angela, can you turn the PlayStation on and load the game for me?" And then
yeah, I mean, I have a digital one, so loading the game is not a big deal. But I'm not confident enough that this is gonna work. How much do you think this thing costs?
That's the thing that, if this is over $100,
you think it's good? I'm thinking it's $300 or $400.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't pay more than $100 for this because it's just a screen with the controller. If this thing's like $200-$300, like, I don't know who this is for, like, at all. This was baffling.
No.
Of all of the weird announcements that Sony has done over the years where they announce cool hardware just on a PlayStation blog, this needed to just be announced on a PlayStation blog and not in a showcase.
Yeah. They don't announce their scuff controller in a showcase, but they announce this?
Yeah. They don't announce PSVR 2 in a showcase. They announce it on the PlayStation blog.
Now, I'll tell you what's intriguing to me, though, is these earbuds.
Yes, this is the next one. This one looked cool. PlayStation earbuds for PC, PS5, mobile. They're doing a simultaneous Bluetooth, which is like, okay, that's Bluetooth. Who cares?
It's dual channel.
It's dual channel. Yeah, no, but I'm saying they're like that should be standard now, but I know you have to advertise it. And then also
because it is not standard in headphones. It should be standard.
Every
but it's
headphone
not.
that I've bought, but I usually buy earbuds over like $100 anyways because I just hate breaking them. But yeah, this is like lossless audio, low latency. The low latency thing is important because like that, like I noticed on my Switch when I use my Bluetooth earbuds, there's some syncing issues. These look cool. I love the little boxes shaped like a PS5 that they go in a little charging case. The earbuds are cool. The earbuds probably deserve to be on this showcase, even though it's kind of throwaway. I don't know why Project Q was on here because it just looked like a joke. The Project Q thing annoys me because it looks like a fan mock-up.
Yeah. And why does it still have a project name when it's supposed to come out this year?
Yeah. And no pricing, nothing. This feels like, I don't know, Jim Ryan's nephew is in R&D.
Hell, you could just call this thing Sense Remote.
Something. And then, the remote play aspect of it. Yeah, the earbuds, I'll probably pick up the earbuds if they're like in the $100 range.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to pick up Project Q. Baffling. And the fact that this is right before the end of the show, throw this in the middle. Don't throw this at the end. We will talk about the last thing, which is Spider-Man 2 coming fall 2023. We didn't get a release date because we're technically so close.
I don't think they're confident it's going to be ready.
So this looked good.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say this doesn't come out in 2023.
I think it still comes out in 2023 only because my fantasy critic relies on it. But
why would you not? You haven't spoken for 2 years. Why would you not date your marquee holiday title? And you're not gonna talk again for 3 months.
That is what concerns me. And also, even though this game looked fantastic, it also still looked a little off. I don't know what was about it. Like I don't know if the frame was dipping or it just wasn't moving as smooth as I would want it to. Definitely reused a lot of animations, which again, it's fine. It's Spider-Man. Like,
let me ask you something though. At the very beginning of this, did you think that we were seeing Wolverine stuff?
No, I knew it was Kraven as soon as I saw it, just because comic book nerd. I figured it because they announced Kraven.
Does it bother you at all? Because I'm not as big of a comic book nerd as you are. I understand Spider-Man. I understand Venom's origins. Like, there's not really an explanation of what the hell is going on.
Well, this looks like it definitely drops you in the middle of the game. And I'm assuming it's just going to follow the same thing where the asteroid hits Earth. Symbiote is attracted to Spider-Man, and eventually Spider-Man's going to reject it. This time with the help of Miles being like, hey, Peter, you don't need to do steroids. And then it's going to go find Brock or Flash, and then we'll be a villain. Or the symbiote is going to attach to Kraven, which I think will be a good twist. Mark that now. That will probably be the thing that happens, because that's how this story always ends, is it leaves Peter Parker and attaches to someone else. Mm-hmm. It'll probably be Kraven.
I agree with you. It looked fantastic. All the different powers looked great. The maneuverability, the quality of life changes that you're seeing. Like, this is all the things that we were talking about. If you're going to go back to Queens, or New York in general. Yeah.
And they added Queens.
You need to do these things, and I feel like that they are doing those things.
Yeah.
In what appears to be somewhat instantaneous switching back and forth between the characters, as well as new abilities, and just the ability, like doing some of the stealth stuff that Miles was doing, where he had the ability just to shoot, like a rope across the wall and use that as more of a walking point. It looked great. It looked fantastic. I'm just utterly disappointed that we didn't get a date to it, and I'm not confident it's coming in 2023.
I think it will come, because I think if it doesn't, then PlayStation doesn't have anything, unless Marathon somehow comes out this year. It looked good. I like that they showed Queens, because like it's a new area. I like the idea that you're expanding like out of Manhattan and going into like some of the boroughs, and that looked really good. As soon as I saw like them showing off like Dark Spider-Man, basically, I was like, cool, this looks like a good prototype game. If you remember Prototype from back in the day. Mm-hmm. And that was enough to get me to be like, hell yeah, even though I was already like getting this game day one. I'm like, cool. Hope we spend a decent amount of time. I do love that they showed you that like with a click of a button, you switch over to wherever they were at the time. And I'm assuming that's going to use the power of the SSD to where it's only, what they showed us is accurate of like 2 seconds later, you're on the other side of the map and you're Miles. So I'm hoping we get that Grand Theft Auto 5 thing where you can catch them in the middle of something else and then you just take over. Because in Grand Theft Auto 5, you'd be in the middle, you'd move to a character and they're in the middle of a shootout. And it's like, oh shit, I'm in a shootout. So I'm hoping we get some of that switching on the fly between Peter and Miles. And some of the dialogue was a little cheesy, but it's also Spider-Man, so I'm okay with that. Because you can tell, like, the voice actor Yuri, they're trying to be like, hey, can you do like an edgy Peter Parker? Because he's, being infected. So that came across as a little cheesy, but I think that works. Everything they showed here looked really good, though there are some visual hiccups that do concern me. But it's not, I'm not like the weird Puddlegate people from the first game. Yeah.
No, I'm the reason my concern is that why wouldn't you date it? Like, why don't, if you're that
unless you're doing a state of play, then they should have announced it.
Jay Kreese asks, he's like, what is Sony's record for delaying games this late?
Last of Us was delayed like twice really late before release day. Yeah. Ghost of Tsushima.
Last of Us was delayed after a press event with dates plastered all over the posters and everything.
Didn't Ghost also do that? Potentially.
I think so. Yeah. But I'm of the camp, like, Sony's doing what I want them to do, though. If they aren't confident, they aren't saying it. So like, I'm okay with them not giving it a date. I'm disappointed they didn't give it a date. But if they don't actually give it a date, it's easier for them to say, hey, we can't hit our fall window. We'll see you on February 5th versus saying October 5th and now it's going to be December 12th or something like that. Like that part of it I'm okay with. But I just feel like you ended the show. You showed I feel like 12 to 15 minutes.
He's like good 10 minutes. Yeah, like something.
Yeah. And then you don't date it.
There, especially if it was the last thing, I almost feel like they need and here's one more thing.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have needed that, or I wouldn't have felt they needed that if there was a date on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Which, as small as it may sound, we might get a date tomorrow for all we know.
Right. But like I agree with you. Okay, fall 2023. Oh, and here's 30 seconds of Wolverine. Mm-hmm. Fall 2024.
Here's Blue Point's game. You know. Here's Naughty.
Right.
Here's
I'm just
something.
Yeah.
Which now I'm starting to think that we will get the Wolverine trailer at the end of Spider-Man. At the end of the game, you'll get a Wolverine teaser. But yeah, the game looks good. It just felt like it was missing something, and it might not be. It was missing a release date for sure, but the whole showcase felt like it's something. And I don't know if that's just like. Me and Dave will talk about what they're probably missing. And there was a couple no-shows here, but Spider-Man, I think, needed that release date. We didn't get it. It still looks good. It will be fine when it comes out. Who knows? It could be they're going from like, hey, it's a September release to it's a November release. Like, it could be a small enough like.
Well, if they're doing that, then they don't have to like. That's still fall.
Well, no. And here's the thing, Dave. They're the ones that said September just a couple months ago, and then today it went from September to fall. So they're already playing with that window. Like we didn't pull September out of thin air. They said September a couple months ago, and now they're just saying fall, which means something could be happening there. But that was the PlayStation showcase. Dave, if you were to give it a letter grade,
C+.
Okay, I'm going B-, so we're right around the same spot. There were some good things here, you know, like just not enough or nothing gigantic.
Yeah. I'm concerned a little bit. So no Sucker Punch.
Yeah, we'll talk about that like right now. Let's
okay.
What was missing? Dave, if you want to... Factions was number one missing.
Yeah.
Kyle asks, and the questions, we'll just start diving into some of them now.
Yeah.
Where is Factions? And that's a good fucking question. Maybe they're going to give it to Keeley. If it does not show
Hell
up,
no.
They gave him the screenshot announcement. They are going to be at the event for something.
The only way that Keeley gets it is if it drops that week.
Which is possible, but I think if it
That's the only way. On the anniversary of Last of Us,
it was last game.
Yeah, on the anniversary of Last of Us 1, we're bringing back Factions for you.
Would you settle for a beta that drops that day?
No,
it has to be full release.
It's been too fucking.
I don't think they're gonna. I think the best we get is a beta announcement at Summer Game Fest.
If Sony is going to show what they showed for Haven and what they showed for Firewalk, why wouldn't they do the same for Factions?
Would there be concern that Bungie would outshine Firewalk and Haven, and then adding Factions to that will mean no one's talking about Firewalk or Haven? Like they were too concerned about piling too much onto the showcase that would undercut their new companies. That's the only logic that I can think of.
Not when Sony's already come out and said this was going to come out in Q1.
But like honestly, that's the only thing I can think of if I was going to make an excuse for why Factions wasn't in the showcase and why it could show up at Summer Game Fest. That's the only thing.
The only way I'm comfortable with it being in Game Fest is if it comes out. That's it.
Yeah.
If they show it in Game Fest and say, "Oh, we'll talk to you again in February 2024," you can go kick rocks.
And you know, like we'll talk about other stuff. Like people really are expecting like Sucker Punch's new game, and I think it's too soon. Sucker Punch takes a really long time to develop games, and I don't think there was a plan for.
How old is Haven?
What do you mean?
How old is Haven as a studio?
Like 2 or 3 years, but we don't know when the fuck their game's coming out.
Right, but they still said it.
Yeah, but Sucker Punch is their own thing.
So why can't they do a teaser for Ghost of Tsushima 2?
Because it might
Just
not
put
be
a fucking logo on the screen.
It might not be Ghost of Tsushima 2 because I don't think they had plans. Like the first Ghost of Tsushima didn't really seem like it set itself up to like this is a franchise now. So they might not have anything for it. And honestly, with factions looming over PlayStation Studios, can they really announce something?
Where is Cory Barlog's game?
Okay. Do you really think...
Where is Bend? Where is Bend? Where is Sucker Punch? Where is Naughty Dog?
So no. Here's the thing. I think you give Sucker Punch, based off history, the benefit of the doubt that they just take a really long fucking time.
Okay, that's fine.
Sony Santa Monica, yes, where's Cory Barlog's game? But also, do you really think he had a huge enough team that they have something to show right now so soon after God of War?
On the success of the first God of War, he had a big enough team, yes.
Do you really think Sony Santa Monica wasn't all hands on deck for God of War?
For Ragnarok?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they pulled some of them off, but I'm just saying, like, you didn't see Barlog around Ragnarok at all.
Yeah, but he's one individual. He needs a whole team to develop a game. Maybe it's just not ready. Now, when it comes to Bend is under so much turmoil that we found out about last year. I just don't know what's going on with Bend, like, at all. So I'm not too surprised. I think that's why we got Concord and Firewalk, or Firewalk's game, yeah. Concord, and then Haven's game, Fair Play or Fair Game. That's a horrible name. I'm just going to say it now because I don't remember it. I think the reason you saw two basic trailers for those games is because the big hitters, the veteran studios, just don't have anything ready yet.
Yeah. Well, realistically, we got 3 announcement trailers from their first party, like from Bungie,
and they're all
Haven,
the new ones,
and Firewalk,
and then Insomniac,
and yeah, like, so I don't know, like, when people point at Xbox and are concerned about where their first party support is, that conversation I saw on social media today of, like, where is the true first party support?
But,
like, where is
I would say,
and I know, like, they just released a whole bunch of stuff, yes. But, like, I get it. If you remove, like Kyle said this on Twitter too, if you remove Insomniac from PS5, the hell do you have?
You have Demon's Souls that released. You have God of War Ragnarok that released. You have
PS4.
But it still was that company.
I'm just saying. I'm talking about PS5.
No, but I'm saying those studios released a game onto the PS5. Yes, it hit PS4, but those studios just released content. They're not going to have something spun up right away. Unless...
Insomniac can.
Insomniac can because they make... Insomniac doesn't really do gigantic-ass games.
What's better? What was better, Spider-Man, or what was a better game for you, Miles Morales or God of War Ragnarok?
Because it was me, Miles Morales was, but I also...
It was better for me too.
But I also like that Miles Morales was a 12-hour game and not a 30, 40-hour game. Sony Santa Monica just put out, like, this fucking epic-ass game, that, and I don't mean epic as in, like,
so what was better for you then, Spider-Man 1 or Ragnarok?
Still Spider-Man, but again, you're talking about, like, Marvel Comics fan. And God of War was a bigger game, technically, than Spider-Man was. So if you're like, oh, where's Sony Santa Monica? They just released fucking Ragnarok a couple months ago. Like, they're busy. They just went all hands on deck.
Okay, so then where's Factions if Last of Us Part 2 just came out 2 years ago?
And that's the one that I can't defend, is Naughty Dog. Like, I will defend, like, everyone but Naughty Dog, because Naughty Dog should have something right now. And Sucker Punch I give a pass just because that Sucker Punch is history. And, like, Guerrilla's just released a game this year. Gran Turismo.
I'm not on Guerrilla. I'm not on them at all. Like,
no, but I feel like if you're not on Guerrilla, you can't really be on Sony Santa Monica, even if Cory Barlog does have, like, a skeleton
but
team.
We know there's 2 teams at Santa Monica. We are only aware of one team at Guerrilla.
No,
regardless
there's
of how big
3
or small
teams
the
at
teams
Guerrilla,
are.
by the way.
Okay, like, what are they supposed to be working on then? Because we just got Forbidden West, and then we got the DLC.
Yeah, well, they're working on the stuff that leaked, which was like a Horizon multiplayer game, and
which we didn't see at all. But we can see that Bungie names it Matter.
Yeah, but no one's throwing a fit that Guerrilla doesn't have anything because they give Guerrilla a pass. I think the only one that's not excusable is Naughty Dog, and if they don't show up at some Game Fest, Bend. So there's no excuse, but also it sounds like Sony is looking at Bend like what are we doing?
When do we have to have the intelligent conversation that Factions is in development hell?
I think we should have had that like a year ago, when it didn't hit shortly after The Last of Us Part 2. But when it comes to Bend, it sounds like PlayStation doesn't know what to do with Bend, and they just figured out what to do with him last year when they're like, okay, fuck it, you can do a new IP. Which means they're just not ready yet. Or they would have done what Concord did of like, hey, here's another trailer, and at a certain point, but does PlayStation want those trailers?
I'm just worried. Like, you can shut people up. Like, why can't Sucker Punch or why can't they let somebody? Why don't we have a remaster of Infamous 1?
I think there's a lot of reasons why. One, Infamous, I love the first Infamous. I just don't think there's
or 2. Like at this point,
I get that, but like, when was the last time you looked at those games? And I know you're like, well, that's why you remaster them, remake them. I think more needs to be done for those games for them to be justifiably like.
But they just signed a publishing deal with Konami for. Like they signed a big marketing deal with Konami for Metal Gear Delta, whatever. Like,
there's more.
You telling me Blue Point can't clean up Infamous?
No, not that they can't clean it up. I just don't know if those game mechanics work well enough, and like the stuff they had you do in Infamous, it works in like just like, hey, we cleaned it up. Here you go, play it. And I feel like when you're doing like a story epic with like the gameplay mechanics that are in like Metal Gear Solid, you can get away with like, hey, let's clean it up.
I'm just very worried that based on what you said today too, like I'm very worried that they're going to force Spider-Man out.
They might have to though, and that's the thing that has been.
And like that's where we've been talking about for a couple of years, where Sony does that, and it's gonna suck if it happens, but it's just not as good. It's not Sony caliber, and it's gonna suck for Spider-Man 2 if that's the case.
Yeah, it's gonna suck for Insomniac. Insomniac basically are going to be punished because they're the consistent team. Because Insomniac don't put pressure on themselves to like make these like gigantic epic ass games. They're like, we know how to make a good 20-hour game.
Do you think if the president of Insomniac, after he really looks at the presentation, he goes to Ryan next week in a meeting and says, I need 90 more days from October 1st. Does Ryan give it to him?
I think he does because Marvel's an important franchise, or Spider-Man's an important franchise.
So then it pushes it past the holiday.
Yes, if they wanted to. I think if they feel they needed to.
What's the Band-Aid then?
Unfortunately, you wouldn't have a Band-Aid for the situation. Like, you would just have to eat it. And PlayStation has done that in the past.
So we don't think that Sony has anything like in break glass in case of emergency.
No, because Twisted Metal wasn't here, but remember the studio that was originally working on Twisted Metal, they were pulled off of it, and that was given to Fire Sprite. So they don't have that. Gran Turismo, I think they announced like some DLCs coming to it, but that's not going to do anything for them. Silent Hill 2 wasn't here. That could be a big game for them. I know that doesn't really interest you.
So there's the possibility if there is the possibility that the entire gaming calendar year of 2023, the only thing we get from Sony Direct first party is Horizon Forbidden West.
God of War Ragnarok came out this year, right? No, that was last year.
October of last year.
Yeah.
So January to December of 2023. I guess maybe Gran Turismo 7. I guess that came out too, right?
Yeah.
And MLB, but
yeah, I mean it's a possibility. It's not a pretty one, but that could be the case. But they also had great partnerships with like Resident Evil.
Yeah, I mean that's what a couple like Final Fantasy
16. Yeah. And their Street Fighter is basically a PlayStation game because they partnered with them so hard. So there are definitely a lot of things that they've done. It's just a matter of. Like, will that be enough if Spider-Man misses? And again, I think that's up to Insomniac because PlayStation has enough trust in Insomniac to be like, can you hit these dates? And then Insomniac can be yes or no. I think Insomniac has earned the Naughty Dog treatment, where Naughty Dog got a couple extensions for The Last of Us Part 2 because they went to Sony and were like, hey, we need more time. So, yeah. I think there's like plenty of studios you can make an excuse for at PlayStation. I just don't think Naughty Dog is one of them.
All right. So let's hit some of these questions and comments. I'm going to kind of lump some of these together. Yeah. So Grey Ghost writes, who wants a portable controller with a screen that can only do a remote play? Seriously, does anyone find this useful or desirable? Also, remote play has always sucked. Makes me mad that they spent time and money on this instead of a new portable. A new portable is never coming. It's like that they are scared, and I narrated on that part.
Yeah.
So it's like they are scared of another Vita failure, and are only going half in. The Vita failure was their fault, not enough game support. The showcase was cool except for that. We're never getting another portable. Like,
again, I think they're too scared. Like,
yeah,
and also the market, I don't know.
And we can't, just based on the conversation we just had. They're having a software. They are in the middle of a software issue right now,
which is why they added new studios to.
Correct. Yeah, but I'm just saying in terms of a software cadence issue right now, of where we just talked about, like, it's Insomniac, it's Gorilla, like that's what we've gotten for like the last 4 years.
And honestly, I think part of the reason that is an issue is because of 2018 or 2019. Where they released 4 first-party games in 1 year. They shouldn't have done that. Even though that made it one of the best years of gaming, they should have looked at it and been like, we need to spread these out.
Yeah. I think the handheld gaming market is completely dead.
No, you can't say completely dead when you're getting a portable PC. The Switch is selling like crazy.
But they're all crossovers. They can, but I'm turns like the Switch is not a pure portable. That Asus thing is not a pure portable.
Like, shows that there's a market for it.
But it's a console that I can take, that I can carry with me. But I'm talking about a dedicated handheld.
Yeah, like, dedicated, like 100% dedicated. Yes.
Yeah.
But portable gaming.
Therefore, yeah. But like, in what situation and how much would it cost for me to be able to take a Vita-like device and put Ragnarok on it, or Spider-Man 2 on it, and play it in the car?
It would be if PlayStation wants to put the effort into having studios work on optimizing a game to be on a lower performing thing, and PlayStation doesn't see there's value in that. Right. I think people get confused because they see the portable PC market and are like, why can't PlayStation do that? And it's like, because they would have to develop like 2 different versions of a game basically. Right. And it's just not worth it. But if you're, they'd have to have a built-in performance slider, which PCs do. Yeah. And they don't want to put that in the handheld of console makers or console players. And for the record, I'm fully aware that my handheld portable PC that comes next month is going to last like 90 minutes on a battery if I'm lucky. And I also think that does play a factor in PlayStation's decisions, because they're just like, oh, do we want people to just have a 45-minute machine? Yeah. And then, so like, what do we think of the handheld? I think we kind of talked about that already. Asked, what do we think of the handheld? Yeah. And do you guys think more focus should have been on the PS Plus service? The service, apparently the service is fucking killing it right now. They made announcements that the service is like, I think it's like 17 or 20% are paying for that premium, those 2 premium tiers. So I think I would have liked if they would have talked about the premium services, but I also think that's kind of boring for a showcase. I think it would have been nice to see a couple things, and it would have had to have gone hand in hand with getting stuff dated. I think it would have been cool to see something like, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of one, but like we mentioned 2 earlier that like would be great day one PlayStation Plus games. Yeah, that would be if they could say coming out August 14th and on PS Plus Extra. Like I think that they could have done that. Like that would have been fine. Yeah, but no, like here's the May or the June games, or here's games coming in the future. It had to be like day one release coming to Plus. Yeah, the only caveat I would have had to that is I would have been okay with a 1-minute trailer of here's what we're adding to the highest tier for PlayStation Classics or something. Like I would have been fine with that, because they haven't really talked about that very much, at least that I've seen. Sean writes in, I was shocked at how many new moves, abilities, traversals seem to be added to Spider-Man 2, not to mention how gorgeous it looked. Kind of talked about that. Yeah, I will say Chris, it didn't look as great as I was expecting it to look. There's still something. You were watching on a phone? Yeah, no, I watched it again, like on my computer, and something seemed a little off, but I don't know what it was. But the Miles aspect of it looked really fucking good. Like his electric abilities looked really good. And Chris writes, nothing impressed me. Makes me wonder if I still like to game or not. Chris is having an existential crisis, which I can imagine. I've watched plenty of these things and just I think at every state of play I've walked out of being like, do I even like video games anymore? But luckily this didn't do that to me, but it definitely made me go, this could have been better. I saw at least, like, I was happy when I saw at least 3 or 4 things that I would play. Yeah. It the problem is, and there have been state of plays that I've walked from before that I saw nothing I would play. Mm-hmm. And I've had those too, and I'm kind of more open to different genres. But like, I don't think anything's gonna ever get that high of like that Final Fantasy VII announcement, the Shenmue announcement, like those E3 days, like I don't think we're going to get those. Like I don't think it helped that it's been 2 years since we've got a showcase, and this was the showcase we got.
Mm-hmm. And Stefan writes, the PlayStation Showcase was brilliant, a nice mix of indie titles and AAA releases. It was a nice surprise to see so many new IPs as well, and how badass did Spider-Man 2 look. So
yeah, I wanted to end on a positive note with Stefan. But yeah, no, I think it was an okay showcase. There's just, it could have been a little bit better. I think having factions there would have probably put this over the edge, especially if they gave factions that Spider-Man slot. And maybe opened with Spider-Man.
Is it concerning to you at all that we saw like EA games and Ubisoft games there?
Doesn't concern me for PlayStation, but it does make sense. It concerns me for Ubisoft. Okay. And when it comes to EA's always sucked at their own stream thing. Like what the EA Play stuff, they've always been kind of boring. So it doesn't really bother me that EA's here. I'm actually surprised EA's here and not at Xbox or at Summer Game Fest. So I think it's a good thing for Sony. I don't know if it's
I think Curry's right with his comment. It was just missing one more thing.
No, and that's what I said earlier. Like, Spider-Man either needed to end with a date or the conference needed to end with, and here's one more thing. Even if it was just a little teaser, even if it was just the marathon teaser. Like if they rearranged.
You think it's any kind of missed opportunity that there was nothing that was like shadow dropped out of this today either?
I think
like nothing within the hour showcase that we got
Beat
nothing
Saber
that's
got
like
shadow dropped at the end of the press conference. No, I think like again that's where factions would have fucking really done some damage if they shadow dropped that. But yeah, this needed one more thing, which I was hoping would have been the Blue Point game, because they're working on remastering something, which everyone thought was Bloodborne, but we got nothing. There's plenty of things that could have been, and here's one more thing, and we didn't get anything. Curry, Days Gone 2 is not happening, buddy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Days Gone was mid. It was the best mid game you could play. But yeah, no Judgment 3, Curry. No Judgment 3. But yeah, it needed a one more thing. This thing, and the hardware thing should not have been in this fucking showcase.
Yeah.
The hardware was so baffling to be included.
All right, so that's our show. A little longer than normal, but I know a lot longer than normal, actually, when I look at but it was very important to us to go over this with you. We will give this same treatment to Xbox on June 11th, as well as, depending on what the Ubisoft forward is or isn't, that might just get roped into our regular weekly show, but Xbox will get this for sure. And I'm 75% confident that we'll do something after Keighley Summer Game Fest, like
we will
kickoff.
I think we will.
Yeah. So we are kind of in that.
Xbox.
I said Xbox.
Oh, you did. Sorry,
three times.
Sorry. Yeah, we'll do something for Keighley and Xbox. There'll be multiple podcasts that week. I'll force Dave. It's fine.
Yeah, my store's not open yet. So
Perfect.
We can do whatever we want.
Fantastic.
So, all right. So that's our show this week. Please consider following us on Twitter at Digital Days Pod. Follow Michael at the First MJC. Follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. Facebook group, Discord server, and Patreon are all linked in the show notes. And I hope everyone has a great week. Please send us feedback. Send us more questions. We can talk about some more stuff next week. Hashtag Ask Digital Days. And have a great week. We'll talk to y'all later. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.